Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. The topic of our today's webinar will be a technical approach to antioxidation and natural antioxidant solutions. Let's see a little bit of the science of oxidation of lipids, fats, and oils. When we look at it happens during this process, we might see it as a complex set of processes, as in the diagram at right, that tries to understand all the reactions occurring during autooxidation of lipids. We can see it as a very simple diagram, as we see at left, but in any case, whatever it is complex or is it simple, we need to understand what is happening when a fat or oil oxidizes. And there's a slide we can see as a schematic diagram of how the autooxidation progresses in lipids. Ground state oxygen, also called as triplet oxygen, can interact with some lipids with the aid of temperature, metals, reactive oxygen species, or in some cases, due to light and some sensitizers containing metals, can be turned into singlet oxygen. Singlet oxygen is able to react with lipids 1,000 times faster than ground state oxygen. Once the lipid has been unstabilized, it is transformed into a lipid radical. These lipid radicals interact with oxygen again and turn themselves into peroxide radicals. Peroxide radicals interact with intact lipids, unstabilizing them and turning them into lipid radicals again, closing the cycle of oxidation propagation. But peroxide radicals also can turn into hydroperoxides. They are highly unstable. Hydroperoxides can interact also with lipid radicals or turn themselves into alkoxyl radicals that, together with some inputs like metals or temperatures or ultraviolet light, give rise to aldehydes, ketones, polymers, that they are the paramount products on the termination stage of lipid oxidation. Lipid oxidation depends heavily into the structure of the fatty acids making up fats and oils. The higher the number of double bonds, the higher the sensitivity to oxidative processes. We can see on the table that fatty acids from 1 to 3 double bonds oxidize at the end 77 times faster than oleic acid that contains just a single double bond. But most of the fatty acids and lipids are in ester form. It's interesting to see that esterification increases the speed of autooxidation, and we see that from 77 times linolenic acid related to oleic acid in free fatty acids turns out to being nearly 100 times faster than oleic acid. So esterification of fatty acids increases oxidative sensitivity. A way to define the speed oxidation progresses depending on the double bonds contained in fatty acids can be seen in this slide. We express here as K, which is the hydrogen atom transfer rate constant. For oleate, oleic acid, with just one double bond, K is equal to 0.8 molecules per second. For linoleic acid, is 62. And for DHA is a whopping 334. It is 334 times faster than oleic acid. So again, this makes us think that the increase in double bonds in the molecules, fatty acids making up fats and oils, are extremely important for their stability. Therefore, taking into account this, it is important to know also the composition of those fats and oils on the individual fatty acid abundance relative to the number of double bonds. In this table, we can see how we defined these fatty acids as saturated, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, and the most important unsaturated to saturated ratio. We see that coconut oil is virtually unsaturated. And we see that, for instance, canola oil is extremely unsaturated with an index in 11.52. And saturation index is just but one of the indicators of potential oxidation. The presence of tocopherols in palm oil tocotrienols, the presence of polyphenols, like in olive oil. This would rate those fatty acids oxidative potentials as seen in the last column on that table. We see, for instance, that herring, pilchard, fish oils are very, very easy to oxidize, as there the yellow grease, fats and oils coming from the human food industry that has been recycled for animal nutrition, but has been subject to heating, and therefore they are extremely sensitive to oxidative processes. Another factor that impacts in fat and oil stability is the presence of trace minerals, some metals, particularly copper and iron. In this slide, we can see how fat stability is greatly diminished when some trace minerals are added to a single fat. This is made in Ransimat procedure, with the control fat having 11.37 hours of stability, but when we add a trace 1 or trace 2 mineral complexes, these 11 hours turn out to be 1.6 or 0.5 hours. So cleanliness, the oxidation in the manufacturing systems, or you would think about animal nutrition, the addition of trace minerals together with the premixes may affect lipid stability, and this has to be taken into account when dealing with oxidative processes. We have say that at the end of the oxidation processes, there are olfactory positive substances, mainly aldehydes, ketones, furans. All those products change the character of the fat, change the smell, change the taste, and make them not acceptable for normal consumption. Many of those aldehydes are used in the flavor industry to produce flavors, but a cucumber-smelling fat is not very proper in an animal nutrition. What we expected a very bland, neutral odor, non-tasting material for our diets. Lipid oxidation doesn't mean only that the sensory quality of the lipid changes. Lipids are a source of energy. We require energy for the diets. Therefore, an oxidized lipid is a lipid with lower energy content. But besides that, products coming out of lipid oxidation can also give rise to toxic products. And besides that, there are interactions with other ingredients and other nutrients in the diet, like proteins or starches, with vitamins and pigments that can be also affected and being lost during oxidation. And most important, toxic materials coming out from oxidized lipids may also interact with nucleic acids, then creating problems in growth and creating metabolical problems in the animals. So lipid oxidation is a phenomenon we have to fight efficiently. Antioxidant technology is a relatively major field, particularly in traditional systems. The role of an antioxidant is to lengthen the induction period, allowing us to use the fat before it gets oxidized and being used during the commercial life of the product. It's always easier and cheaper to use it before oxidation starts growing. So the earlier we can add it in the production chain, the more efficient we will be using antioxidants, and more efficiently we will be protecting fats and oils. An antioxidant interrupts the radicality reactions happening in fatty acids. Most of the times, radicality reactions start at the base-allyl bonds in double bond carrying fatty acids. In this example, linoleic acid has a base-allyl bond, and it costs very little energy to delocalize the hydrogen. The energy required for this stripping of this hydrogen is just 75 kilocalorie per mole, while a regular C-C carbon-carbon bond would require 101 kilocalorie. When this hydrogen has been delocalized from the linoleic acid, it turns itself into a free radical. The role of an antioxidant is to lend, to donate this hydrogen and to recover back the fatty acid. In this moment, the antioxidants here we are using BHA as an example, turns itself into a free antioxidant radical. Radicals don't interact with other fatty acids because they tend to be neutralized by several systems. Some of those are in this slide. Dimerization would mean that two antioxidant radicals block the free radical, avoiding it getting into acting against a new fatty acid molecule. A very common process of antioxidant neutralization would be electron resonance around the phenyl ring in the antioxidant. A third system would be steric hindrance. The third butyl groups of BHT creates so little space to access the free radical that no molecule can get into that, and therefore BHT, the free radical of BHT, cannot interact with yet another fatty acid and to process with the oxidation of the same. We have synthetic antioxidants. Many of those have been unused for many years. We have some of those here. Most of those, they are highly desirable to be removed from diets. Some of those have been already removed. Some of those are in the process. Some of those, they are being sought to be removed from diets. In natural antioxidants, we have traditional tocopherols. If they are natural, coming out from oils, these tocopherols work like any other antioxidant. They lend hydrogen to a free radical to stabilize it into a new fatty acid, while they are transformed into free radicals themselves. But in the case of tocopherols, tocopherol has a secondary activity because this free radical can react with another free radical, turning it into a tocopherol semiquinone. That is, one is no longer active, but recovering a second molecule of fatty acid. Also, two tocopherol free radicals can create a dimer and therefore neutralizing themselves and avoiding them to react with another free fatty acids in the fats and oil. At Lain, we work with polyphenol derived from botanical extracts. And basically, we operate with two groups of ingredients from those botanical extracts. A full family of those are the diterpene polyphenols from rosemary, into which we have carnosic acid, carnosol, and rosmarinic acid as primary antioxidants. But the fact that makes these substances very interesting as antioxidants is that they, when they degrade, they create new substances that are also antioxidants. For instance, carnosol recharges carnosic acid. It lends back hydrogens to recover carnosic acid activity. When there's no more hydrogens left, carnosol turns itself into miltirone and rosmarinic. Both of those substances are also antioxidant. When carnosic acid cannot be recharged anymore, it can be divided into epirosmanol and rosmanol, two antioxidant substances as well. Therefore, there is an additional step of antioxidation capability in these two main antioxidant compounds from rosemary that makes it very interesting as antioxidant molecules. On the other hand, we work with catechin and gallic acid derivatives. If one of the main antioxidative activity is lending of hydrogens, we see easily here that there are many hydrogens potentially being able to be lent so that those ingredients can recover fatty acids that has been turned into free radicals, stopping the antioxidative reaction. This makes them also very interesting as antioxidant molecules. Another thing that's interesting to know is the way those antioxidants work in the antioxidation, in the auto-oxidation cycle. For instance, gallic acid and gallic acid derivatives are known to be very powerful metal chelating agents, metal chelators. Therefore, gallic acid would probably chelate metals that regulate the transformation from triplet oxygen into singlet oxygen, stopping this reaction. But also carnosic acid and gallocatechins are singlet oxygen quenchers. Then they avoid the singlet oxygen interacting with lipids and degrading those. We see that also carnosic, rosmarinic, and gallocatechins are free radical scavengers. They interrupt those, capture those free radicals, and avoid the impact of those free radicals in the radicalary reaction. Finally, carnosol has a very particular role as antioxidant. It is not a chelator. It is not oxygen quencher. It is not a free radical scavenger. It stabilizes lipid molecules. It makes them stronger to the free radical interaction, avoiding them to be degraded. But itself, it is not a scavenger of free radicals. In all, the combination of these ingredients make antioxidants very powerful to stop lipid and fats degradation. Also, we mentioned before that metals have an impact into the oxidation process. Antioxidants can be used together with chelating agents. There are many that can be used. Most of those belong to three different substances families: phosphates, citric acid, or DTA. The main role of these chelators is to avoid the impact of metals on fat and stability, as it has been demonstrated here, into which two different lipids, tallow and lard, were submitted to Ransimat analysis with trace minerals without any chelating agent, or trace minerals plus a mineral chelator or an organic chelator. We can see that just the chelating complexes are able to increase fat stability by a factor of 2. Therefore, we demonstrate here also that when metals are suspect into the oxidation process, the use of chelates is a good idea. On the development of TrueGrow, the assessment of TrueGrow activity for stabilizing fats and oils, we use a recognized method that is using the Oil Stability Index, or OSI, using Ransimat-based technology. We did our evaluations on several types of lipids to have a wide range of unsaturation indices that would allow us to understand how antioxidants work depending on the makeup and fatty acids of those lipids. And initially we had synthetic antioxidants as reference, BHA and BHT applied to the maximum dose that is permitted into compound feed. Ransimat technology is an automatic, computer-driven, very simple procedure that is free of operating errors because it is totally automatic. The basis of this is we have a sample of the lipid, which is heated and some air is bubbled through it. Heat and air allows the composition of these fats. The volatiles released from the fat are transferred to a measurement unit into which some deionized water is in there. When the volatiles dissolve into water, conductivity increases, water conductivity increases, and a conductivity cell detects this increase and plots it into a graph. These are some pictures of a regular Ransimat system, and this is the graph we have. The nearly flat curve on the bottom, this is the induction period, and the nearly vertical curve, it will be the propagation period. With these two curves, we detect the end of the reaction, and the indicator we use is hours Ransimat. This table contains the fatty acid composition of several of the lipids used in our Ransimat experimentation with natural antioxidants. We use sunflower oil, high in oleic acid, soy oil, palm oleins, lard, and tallow, from 11.66 unsaturation index to a 1.02 unsaturation index. So it's a very broad range of lipids to be testing our antioxidants. This slide contains the results of some of the determinations we made in ransimat with different lipid substrates. In soy oil, for instance, we can see how the synthetic antioxidants, BHA and BHT, don't really provide a very high stability increase, while some natural polyphenol-rich formulations are able to work as twice as high in stability index as related to, for instance, BHT. When we use tallow, more saturated fat, BHE obtains 102% stability increase, but it's curious to see that BHT is not as active as BHE in this particular substrate. If we have a look at the AOX formulations, we see that we go from 144% and 166% activity, and it is much higher than that of BHA or BHT. And it's also interesting to see that the more active product, is the formulation 1113, for instance, is not the most active product when the substrate is highly unsaturated, as in soy oil, into which the more active product was formulation 1112. When using sunflower oil rich in oleic acid, we see that, again, BHA and BHT don't have very much activity in terms of increase the stability of this fat, whereas 1112 formulation and 1113 formulations obtain 42% and 29%. And again, for highly unsaturated lipid, formulation 1112 is the most adequate product, as we have to judge on the results of this experimentation. When confronted against natural antioxidants as well, we did a trial using 3 different types of rosemary extracts. They are very much used as antioxidants in the industry. Theoretically, all these 3 products had exactly the same or very similar composition. Let's put that way. We used them at 650 ppm in sunflower oil. In this case, the sunflower oil was rich in linoleic acid, and we saw that rosemary extracts had variable activity when measured as stability increase. In this case, we use another type of antioxidants, as a green tea derivative, used at 1000 ppm, and we see that we achieved a 97% stability increase. It can be very easily compared against this 15% of 12% of rosemary extract. So there are differences between natural antioxidants, of course. When we tested against tallow, all 3 rosemary extracts had a very similar activity, about 400. But green tea, again, outperformed those, achieving a whopping 550% increase in tallow stability. So, again, there are differences between antioxidants when they are natural. So what kind of conclusions we can draw from this developmental work? To begin with, I think that we should be saying adequacy is one of the attributes in polyphenol-based lipid antioxidants. We can obtain highly efficient antioxidants selecting combination of standardized botanical extracts rich in polyphenols. And research has shown that those improve lipid stability and fat stability under the research conditions used. The second is specificity. We have seen that there is no single antioxidant able to provide lipid stability in all circumstances to all lipid bases. This should serve us to ask or to inquiry what is the composition of the lipid we should be stabilizing, so that we can use the most efficient antioxidants, taking into account the basic composition and free in fatty acids of this particular lipid. And thirdly, the implications that this has for consumers, for instance. If consumers wish to reduce or altogether eliminate the use of synthetic antioxidants, there are alternatives that are efficient to control oxidation in substrates and providing feeds and foods with the desired shelf life for a very sound nutrition. Therefore, out of Line's product line, we can recommend 3 different products, those that were developed and described before. The formulation 1112 is particularly adapted for lipids with high unsaturation index, like soy oil, canola, sunflower. These products would be added 30 ppm per 1% fats, and this would help manufacturers achieve 18-month shelf life. Formulation 1113, we have seen that is more efficient for less unsaturated or more saturated lipids when using lard or tallow as sources, as energy source. TrueGrow 1113 appears to be the most efficient product, and it can be also used at a rate of 30 ppm per 1% fat for an 18 months of shelf life. The case of TrueGrow GT, green tea, oil soluble, is particularly adapted for use in any type of fats. They are added as covers to the kibble to stabilize the fat before the addition and stabilize the fat after addition into the kibble. In this case, the dose for this product would be just 10 ppm for every 1% fat added to the kibble for an extended shelf life. And as a pattern for usage in the industry for these products is summarized in this slide, into which liquid products like TrueGrow GT is added to the animal fat that can be used for stabilizing out from the rendering and stabilizing this fat after application. And TrueGrow AOX in powder form could be added to raw materials, to meals, or through the premix to the complete diet for stabilizing the oils carried through the cereals or the materials that compose the final dry feed, and to providing the maximum shelf life for this food. So with this, I finish this webinar. I do thank you everybody for your patience, and if there's any doubts, questions, or even inquiries, there will be contacts after this video. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you for attending this presentation. Please address any requests to the contact information highlighted below.